So actually when I was starting to record this video, I had to do like 3 or 4 takes because every time I did the introduction, I was like, it's going to be Morkr the Shadow Gate, but no, it's actually Malagor the Dark Omen. But that just goes to show like how we almost never got to see anyone outside of Morkr in competitive play. But it's going to be Beastmen versus Norsca here. Malagor the Dark Omen almost did it again there, facing off against Throg the Troll King. Hands down the best choice. Throg is really good against a number of the new tools on the Beastmen roster, like the Gorgon, the Jabberslythe, the new Manticores, Taurox. Throg can really go fisticuffs with all of those guys, so I really do like that choice. Now, for my army here, the front line is going to be very elite. It's going to be triple Bestigor Herd, and the reason why I go with Bestigors in this matchup is because most Norscan players and their dog and third cousin always go with Berserker front lines, which are, objectively quite good against many things on the Beastmen roster, but against Bestigors, not so much. So Bestigors with their armor and their charge bonus and, of course, the very poor defensive stats of the Marauders can really run them over pretty effectively in my experience. On top of that, we have a couple of the basic Gore Herds on the flanks. One of the Tuskgore Chariots backed up by a Gorgon. The Gorgon, of course, there to fight mammoths and other monsters like that. We got Malagor up in the sky flying about, and he does have the Enfeebling Foe, Cygor Summon, and Doom and Darkness. And double Feral Manticore, which is quite good. Feral Manticores have always been pretty solid against the Norskins. You see them in the Dark Elf matchup and other things like that. So we'll see how they do. Here we do also have Centaurs. We got 2 of them and some Poison Hounds to flank about and just chase things down. And usually this force teamed up with a mobile Malagor can defeat, Skin Wolf mobility and really do well for you. So for King of the Dead, Berserkers, he does have a Skin Wolf Werekin, Throg, as well as a Firecaster to get some sweet, sweet burning heads. A Feral Mammoth, a couple Trolls actually, so just basic Norscan Trolls backed up by Javelins and Spears. I need army for sure. The Trolls are really going to have to carry a lot of this game on their back because dealing with those Bestigors is going to be tough. The Mammoth is also quite good there too, so if the Mammoth can be safe and do its thing, it should be okay. But let's go ahead and show you this engagement in the front line. So we do have the Bestigors slamming into the Brutes of the Hound, which are the ROR, and you can see even the ROR Berserker takes a lot of damage. If that had been a basic Berserker, it'd be far worse. However, a good response from King. He does send in the big chunky Mammoth here, which is going to be doing some work. And seeing my response, which is sending in the Gorgon, he counters by sending in Throg as well as the Werekin. But I do have the moves, and the Gorgon is pretty quick, so I'm able to outmaneuver Throg a little bit while also pressuring in the back line. So Centaurs and Poison Hounds and these other units are going to be trying to shut down the Javelins because I know they're a pretty substantial threat. The Tuskgore Chariots piling in here against the Berserkers, trying to help win that fight. So the Dark Peacock still flying up in the sky. I decided to send in the 2 Manticores here to help win this engagement with the Bestigors and just kind of break those Trolls right there. And seeing we have a bit of a pit fight here, I do summon a Cygor to try and occupy the attention of these Norscan monsters, while the Gorgon and the Chariots do just crush those Berserkers. Now moving into the Norscan Trolls here, hopefully we'll be able to continue our reign of terror. So Centaurs in the backfield absolutely crushed the Javelins, and the other Centaurs are going to be doing the same thing, collapsing into these guys, while Hounds actually surround King's Caster. So getting a ton of catches here in the early game, which I'm for sure quite happy about that. However, things take a little bit of a turn for the worst up in the top as my 2 Manticores rampage, and I do lose this fight. My Bestigors are forced back, and now my Manticores are rampaging into high DPS units like Berserkers, taking Javelin Fire, and the big Chungus Mammoth is going to be moving over there to potentially shut me down. So things got a little bit scary there, but continuing to run with the Gorgon. Throg really peeling out for this fight, which is exactly what I wanted. Him overextending like this is great because Malagor can then come back. I can drop Cygor summons. I have a lot of mobility. And we should be able to defeat Throg, or at least do some big damage to him here. So Enfeebling Foe is active. Malagor flying in with his charge bonus of 60-something. The Bestigor is also moving back in, and this one Manticore, thankfully for me, a huge boon, actually rampages and makes its way back in to deal with old Throg Daddy here. The Mammoth's still doing some good work with the Skin Wolf Werekin and breaking through my Centaurs here, and my Summon Cygor giving me the advantage of the Bounce of Power, actually getting ready to disappear here. So what little advantage I do have in the bounce will probably go back to the middle, as that does happen. Now, up on the high ground, King's Berserkers and Spears and a couple Javelins have stabilized. I do send in the Tuskgore Chariots to try and shut them down. And the Gorgon also continuing to hunt Throg. Throg is pretty quick. He's got speed in the 50s, but the Gorgon is 60 speed. And Centaurs, of course, we don't really need to make much of a speed comparison there. They're exponentially faster than Throg Daddy. And out of desperation here, the Skin Wolf Werekin is being sent in to help. But it's looking like a little bit of a grim battle as Malagor drinks some Red Bull and flies in after the Norscan Trolls, using the Enfeebling Foe, which probably wasn't necessary due to the Terror Route, and we do break those Trolls, and they might come back. They're just Terror Routed, so that's only a temporary thing. Thankfully for me, though, both Manticores did survive. One Manticore making its way down, going to be coming in to help out with Old Throg Daddy. Bestigor Herds continuing to charge in and really generating some great value over this game. It almost makes me think in this matchup, maybe like mixing in a couple Marauder champions or Marauders with great weapons to just trade with the Bestigors might not be a bad idea. I don't know if this is going to be a common tactic, because a lot of Beastmen players will go with chaff units, It's just my particular playstyle, but I think a lot of Beastmen players will go with Chaff units and Chaos Spawn, which would do arguably very good against Berserkers as well. So Beastmen have a couple very good options in this matchup. Now, Throg does come back. I was going to chase him off, actually, with Malagor the Dark Omen, but I was like, oh no, he's back, he's furious. And Throg actually charges into the Gorgon, gets some great damage, and the Gorgon looks like it's the one that's actually going to break here. So I swarm in with everything. I'm like, fire all the cannons, and we get in there. Malagor moves in, attacks the Gorgon. The Cygor summon does the same thing. And we're just swarming in, doing our best to kind of drag this guy through the mud. And Throg is at -4. The Skin Wolf, the Condom Wolf moving in, going after, and gets bounced. So apparently the Condom Wolf still has the Gorbel syndrome. It literally ran into the back of the Gorgon and got bounced back. Both King and I were laughing pretty hard when that happened. But here you can see Throg getting chased down, a couple Norskins rallying up on the high ground, but probably not going to be enough. From here, you know, my Gorgon has the ability to chase and heal, so it can just chase Throg and heal while he's in combat with Throg. You can see the HP is going up here. And that probably will be pretty rough as the Werkin does break. GG, well played. It was a fun one. I think it's a Beastman favored matchup now. You know, I think before it was pretty even. They were both kind of outdated factions. Granted, I don't think Norsca is without tools. That's for sure. I do think Norsca can win this match. I wouldn't say it's like a massive favor. I would say like a 55-45 type thing, but I do like this build. And the thing is, if you're not prepared for the Bestigors, I mean, he kind of was via the Mammoth, but the Mammoth got caught in a weird situation. There was a lot of strange extensions, like Throg overchasing 2 a little bit was probably a little bit problematic. But yeah, Bestigors each getting pretty solid value for like a frontline unit fighting against Mammoths. The Gorgon did okay, Manticores did okay. Nothing was like crazy. My Chariots only got 465. Wasn't that great. But it was just kind of good spread across the entire army and catching those characters. Now, as far as what I would like to bring in this matchup, I'm trying to think. I had a build that I used against Dov that I liked quite a bit. I guess you got to respect the Bestigors. You definitely do. They can come in and really, really dominate Berserker front lines. But the thing is, like, most Beastmen players don't do that. So I really do like the Berserker core. You know what? Also, if those Javelins hadn't gotten just freebied in the beginning, like, I think that could have been a big factor too. Maybe keeping the spears like right on top of them with trolls supporting them. Probably, honestly, this build is fine. I think if you just cut the trolls and replace them with more efficient units, I think that could be fine. As a matter of fact, we can go to the drawing board real quick. So well played to King. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. Got some really cool replays coming up here on the horizon. And we'll go over to Norsca because I did play this. I played this matchup in early access against Dov Plays, and at that time we didn't know the Tuskor Chariot characters were broken, and I was still able to do well with Norsca against them. So I think Throg is definitely still the way. You definitely want Wintertooth Crown. It's a very, very clutch ability there. I do think Berserkers are still very good against Norsca, or excuse me, against Beastmen, but maybe you got to mix in a little bit of armor piercing, just get like some of these guys, just to kind of tiny tilt that. On top of that, I think one Marauder Ice Wolf Chariot's pretty nice, just to help you in the front line. It can run through their, Bestigors, it brings armor piercing, and it also has Frostbite, so it can be used for a multitude of purposes there. Now, Condom Wolves are a thing. I don't know how I feel about Famir against New Beastmen. The double Feral Manticore is certainly an option, but if they have double Manticore plus Malagor in the sky, you're going to lose that fight 100%, so I'm a little bit hesitant to do that. The Shaman Sorcerer of Fire, I think, is very clutch. You can also go Shadows, but I do think the Firecaster is very, very good. So honestly, I think King was onto the right idea there. So, something like this, just Burning Head. You can even do Flaming Sword of Ruin too, and go with those bad boys. Now, do we go with a more static build to force the Beastmen to try and collapse on you, and then you can get the optimal counter charges? I did like the Javelin play. I thought that was quite good. I just think they needed to be a little bit more defended. And Condom Wolves are still good against Centaurs. It really just comes down to it. So I think if you go for a more defensive static build, where the Skin Wolves are within your own lines, then you're going to be feeling pretty good. We'll get Beast of Tashnar, get a couple Marauder Spearmen, and it's going to be enough to kill a Bestigor line, though. You have the 2 great weapons plus the 2 chariots, or plus the chariot. Maybe you need to find a way to get like one more chariot in there. Okay, yeah, you got the great weapons plus the chariot, Burning Head. You have plenty of anti-large here. Like if Beast of Tashnar and Skin Wolves can jump onto a Gorgon, they'll do some excellent work. I'm just trying to think how we can get a little bit more punch against the armor piercing just to make it a more well-rounded build, and I think from there we're going to be okay. If we could just get like one more chariot. Fight or Die is really good, so is Wintertooth Crown. We can't afford to cut either of those. We could cut Flaming Sword of Ruin. And Fireball is good too. Fireball is really good for sniping Beastmen characters like Butchers of Kalkengard, all those kind of units like that. So I think that's probably the way, and then just get like one more chariot piece. Yeah, this feels pretty good. Like these 2 chariots plus the Berserkers, Brutes of the Hound, you should win the front line here against a lot of Beastmen armies. And then Javelins can kill Spawn, Minotaurs, big monsters. You can adequately protect them using Marauders and Skin Wolves. This build feels pretty good. Anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed that, plus the post-game breakdown. If you're a Norscan fan, give this build a try and, do us proud. All right, we'll see you next time. Take care, and that is it for now. Cheers.